Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajikacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajikacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Page 519. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 25th day of September 2024 in San Diego, We're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 12, Devotional Service, text 10 on page 519. Abhyase api asamartho asi matkarma paramo bhava madartam apikarmani kurvan siddhim avapsyasi abhyase pasamarthosi matkarma padamo bhava madartam apikarmani kurvan siddhim avapsyasi abhyase pasamarthosi matkarma padamo bhava madartam apikarmani kurvan siddhim avapsyasi abhyase pasamarthosi matkarma padamo bhava madartam apikarmani kurvan siddhim avapsyasi abhyase pasamarthosi matkarma padamo bhava madartam apikarmani kurvan siddhim avapsyasi. Ladies. Abhyase pasamarthosi matkarma padamo bhava madartam apikarmani kurvan siddhim avapsyasi. Anyone online?
Abhyase pi asamarthosi
Abhyase pasamarthosi
matkarma paramo bhava
matkarma padamo bhava
madartham api karmani
madartam apikarmani
kurvan siddhim avapsyasi.
kurvan siddhim avapsyasi. Okay, word by words. Abhyase, in practice, api, even if, asamartaha, unable, asi, you are, mat karma, my work, paramaha, dedicated to, bhava, become, mat artam, for my sake, api, even, karmani, work, kurvan, performing, siddhim, perfection, avapsyasi, you will achieve. Page 519. Translation. Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, if you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. Purport. One who is not able even to practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga under the guidance of a spiritual master can still be drawn to this perfectional stage by working for the Supreme Lord. How to do this work has already been explained in the 55th verse of the 11th chapter. We'll refer back to that in a minute. One should be sympathetic to the propagation of Krishna consciousness. There are many devotees who are engaged in the propagation of Krishna consciousness, and they require help. So even if one cannot directly practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, he can try to help such work. Every endeavor requires land, capital, organization, and labor. Just as in business, one requires a place to stay, some capital to use, some labor, and some organization to expand, so the same is required in the service of Krishna. The only difference is that in materialism, one works for sense gratification. The same work, however, can be performed for the satisfaction of Krishna, and that is spiritual activity. If one has sufficient money, he can help in building an office or temple for propagating Krishna consciousness. Or he can help with publications. There are various fields of activity, and one should be interested in such activities. If one cannot sacrifice the results of his activities, the same person can still sacrifice some percentage to propagate Krishna consciousness. This voluntary service to the cause of Krishna consciousness will help one to rise to a higher state of love for God, whereupon one becomes perfect. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, in this purport, Prabhupada referred to the last verse of the previous chapter. And we'll read that again. He says here that how to do this is to practice regular principle of the Boga under the guidance of spiritual master. One can still be drawn to the perfectional stage by working for the Supreme Lord. How to do this has been already explained in the 55th verse of the previous chapter. Hare Krishna, welcome. So, let's go back to that verse, which Prabhupada says is the essence of the entire Bhagavad Gita in the purport. I'll say, you say, page 504. Yeah. Okay. Maybe you want to grab a book. You can sit on the bench that way if you like, or whatever. Okay. Text 55. Mat karma krin mat paramo mad bhakta sangavarjitaha nirvairak sarva bhuteshu yaksamam eti pandava. My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me. And I'll just read the first couple of sentences here. Purport. Anyone who wants to approach the supreme of all the personalities of Godhead on the Krishna Loka planet in the spiritual sky and be intimately connected with the Supreme Personality Krishna must take this formula as stated by the Supreme himself. Therefore, this verse is considered to be the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. So one can contemplate that verse. Now back to text 10. Now this chapter, did I say Om Jnana yet? I don't know if I did. I did. So this chapter is entitled Devotional Service, so it's going to culminate in a series of verses that describe what it means to be a pure devotee. But here Krishna has a series of verses that progressively give one, even if you can't do this, you can do that. If you can't do this, do that. So that you somehow or other begin devotional service. So the previous verse, or text 8, just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, engage all your intelligence in me, thus you will live in me always without a doubt. That's it. If we can do that, then we can perfect our lives. But then he says, my dear Arjuna, winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way you will develop a desire to attain me. Now this is very significant. He's not saying here that in this way you'll automatically come to me. This is a step back. And what you're developing, and we may find ourselves in this situation, if we are, then we're fortunate, follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. So this is what Srila Prabhupada gave. He set up this society, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, to allow everyone in this Kali Yuga to take up the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. And he wrote books to that end, he established temples to that end, he traveled the world 12 times around the world, simply for this purpose. And the idea is that a temple environment or festivals, kirtan, these are attractive to someone who is eligible to be attracted. Not everyone's attracted. But it's interesting. For an ordinary person who's leading a more or less decent life, pious life, he'll be intrigued by this. What is this anyway? And there'll be devotees there on the chanting party. Here, take this back to Godhead, or take this book, or take this invitation, find out more. So, okay, I think I'll try it, And so in this way, one can enter into the process that Rupa Goswami nicely summarizes in these 2 verses in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. I forget the exact place where they are, I think near the beginning. So he says, Adhau Shraddha Tataksaru Sangha Tabhajana Kriya Tato Narta Nivritti Sat Tato Nishta Ruchistata Tata Sakti Tata Bhava Tata Prema Abhyudanchati Sadhakana Mayam Premna Praro Bhave Bhave Krama. Krama means step by step. So the first stage, the essential first step is this Shraddha. Adhau Shraddha. In the beginning there must be some faith. Now that's preliminary faith. It's certainly not absolute faith because you're just learning, you see. But faith, this Shraddha in this context means a preliminary interest and a willingness to investigate, to come into the association of devotees, you see. Now, in modern age, especially with so many media, beginning with the books, but also through the internet and so many other ways, one he may be in the middle of Montana somewhere, 100,000 miles, 1,000 miles from a temple. So he's not going to come to a temple like you have here. This is a great facility. But internet, you can get on the internet, you can Google Hare Krishna, and you'll find so many sites, and you probably find some gathering near you, not a temple, but some devotees, like that. So that shows some interest, some preliminary interest, a little faith that there's something there for me, maybe. Let me check it out, you see. And so that's the beginning. So Adhau Shraddha Tatak Sadhu Sangha. Sadhu Sangha is essential. This whole society, it's a society, association. Sangha means association, and it means also attachment. So the idea is that Krishna is naturally attractive for the soul. That's what his name means. Krishna means all attractive. The problem is that we have turned our back on Krishna since time immemorial, and we've been attracted by the reflection of Krishna's beauty and attraction in all the things of this material world. Bhayam tutiya banabeshitaksya shadapeta sivaparyo asmati. This is a verse in the 11th canto, spoken by one of the 9 Yogendras, the exalted sons of Lord Rishabhadev, who upon his taking sannyas, they also took sannyas, and they just became traveling yogis, and wherever they go, they give the lessons in bhakti. So this verse describes how we turn away from Krishna and it produces fear, because we've forgotten our protector. We've gone off on our own. So bhayam dvitiya binaveshitaksa means become enthralled by the dualities of this material world. Dvitiya binaveshitaksya brings into being the fear, the bhayam. And it's called by Isha is the Lord, the controller, apetasya, turning away from, viparhiyo asmriti. And everything becomes reversed. Instead of being the humble servants of Krishna, we become the false masters of our little corner of the material world, you see? We lose our actual nature. We forget who we really are. That's the asmriti, we forget. And we can go on for eons like that, from one body to another, and up and down the material, the universe, different species of life, all in this forgetfulness. Now, Krishna is always with us as the super soul. And if we are fortunate enough to come in contact with a devotee, and we show some interest, then that super soul is going to start giving us hints and helping us to engage. So then he says, so what tanmayato, by Krishna's Maya energy, this comes about. So the Buddha, this comes out, the intelligent person, abhajetam, learns how to worship that Isha that he turned away from. That's Krishna. From the realized soul, from the Shastra, from Krishna himself, he's fortunate like that. He's interested in abhajetam, how worship how? Bhakti-aikayesham, with one-pointed devotion. So that's not going to come immediately. That comes after some time, and that's what this whole section is about. So, Buddha abhajetam, bhakti-aikayesham, guru devatatma, and revering one's guru as one's very self and representative of God. So all in that one verse is a great lesson. Welcome. Thank you for coming. So here Krishna is saying now, in the previous verse, in text 9, if you can't fix your mind upon me without deviation, and this is certainly true for practically every beginner. If you can do that, then you're very advanced. But generally, it's It's up and down, and we need training. Follow the regular principles of Bhakti Yoga. Okay. But if you can't even do that, you see, so if you can't do that, then just try to work for me. So this means, I remember, I've been living with these books for so long. There was a devotee, very nice devotee named Kapindra. And now a Kapi is a monkey? Kapindra is a name for Hanuman, I think, maybe. The Indra of Kapi. So anyway, this is when I was in living in the big temple in New York, the famous temple, 55th Street Temple. You may have read about that if you read, And 11 stories, it was wonderful. And so he was running the gift shop on the ground floor. And I once talked to him, and because people come in all the time just to find out, and then he would talk to them, he would preach to them, And so he would open this to the verse that we just read, and point out, well, okay, if you may not want to practice Krishna, I can understand that, but we're trying to help people in so many ways. If you're interested, and he would point out, every endeavor requires some land, some capital, you see, a good organization, labor, so you can give a donation. And this way you get donations and sell them. I used to go down there and buy quarts of kefir, and that was part of my diet at that time. Anyway, I just remember that. So Krishna is speaking here about, okay, I understand that you can't practice regulations of bhakti, but try to work for me, because by working you will come to the perfect stage. You will come to the stage of desiring me, the previous verse, you see, and then from there you can eventually fix your mind on Krishna with undeviating perfection. So Krishna is giving everyone a chance here, and in the next verse he goes down even a step further, I think. Oh, any questions on this verse in purport? It's kind of very interesting how he does this. So, Ataitarapi Shaktosi. Okay, everyone got it? Page 520. Ataitarapi Shaktosi. Kartum madhyogam ashritaha. Sarva karma palatyagam. Tata kuriyutatmavan. If, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act giving up all results of your work and try to be self-situated. Purport. It may be that one is unable even to sympathize with the activities of Krishna consciousness because of social, familial, or religious considerations, or because of some other impediments. If one attaches himself directly to the activities of Krishna consciousness, there may be objections from family members, or so many other difficulties. For one who has such a problem, it is advised that he sacrifice the accumulated result of his activities to some good cause. Such procedures are described in the Vedic rules. There are many descriptions of sacrifices and special functions for the full moon day. And there is special work in which the result of one's previous action may be applied. Thus one may gradually become elevated to the state of knowledge. It is also found that one who is not even interested in the activities of Krishna consciousness gives charity to some hospital or some other social institution, he gives up the hard-earned results of his activities. That is also recommended here because by the practice of giving up the fruits of one's activities, one is sure to purify his mind gradually, and in that purified stage of mind, one becomes able to understand Krishna consciousness. Of course, Krishna consciousness is not dependent on any other experience, because Krishna consciousness itself can purify one's mind. But if there are impediments to accepting Krishna consciousness, one may try to give up the results of his actions. In that respect, social service, community service, national service, sacrifice for one's country, etc., may be accepted, so that someday one may come to the stage of pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita 1846, we find it is stated, Yatak pravritti bhutanam. If one decides to sacrifice for the supreme cause, even if he does not know that the supreme cause is Krishna, he will come gradually to understand that Krishna is the supreme cause by the sacrificial method. Whenever I read this purport, I think of a devotee who's, you may have heard of, named Sadaputa. Have you ever read? He wrote some books. He was a central member of a what you would call a certain group of devotees that Srila Prabhupada founded who had scientific knowledge, and he wanted to do scientific preaching, meaning challenging the idea that life comes from matter. That was the main thing, that life comes from life, the ultimate life, Krishna. So this Sariputta, I met him first in Brooklyn when he joined. I was there. He joined a few months after me. And all I knew about him was that he was pretty good in math, and so they let him come in and he could work in the accounting office, and so forth, adding and subtracting. Turns out he had a PhD in mathematics, and he was super, super smart. And eventually, I don't know if he joined at that point, but eventually he actually joined the temple. And I learned how he joined. He was upstate New York. He was going to school there around Cornell, I think, and maybe in Cornell University. And there was a flood. There was a flood. It happens occasionally, And he joined the team that putting in the sandbags and everything. And he was doing charitable work, you see. He was giving of himself. He wasn't at all, he didn't know anything about Krishna at that time, But then after that, by doing this charity work, it opened his heart a little bit, to something like that. And then he found himself in the bookstore, and he had been somewhat inquisitive about spiritual matters, and he saw the Bhagavad Gita as it is. And he picked up the Bhagavad Gita as it is. He learned about ISKCON, and he became more intrigued, and he came down to Brooklyn. Eventually he joined. So he was a proof of this, that even if one is unable to work in Krishna consciousness, then try to giving up the results of your work and try to be self-situated. So the disease, you see, the material disease is this idea of trying to dominate material energy, enjoy it, you see, and do so maybe at the expense of others, you see. And in this way, being completely absorbed in material affairs, trying to manipulate the material world and totally self-centered on the bodily concept of life. But if one performs some charity, sacrifice, then that's a good work. It's good work, and therefore it can lead in the proper association to becoming interested in Krishna consciousness, because Krishna says all this good work, we're trying to help others. Devotees live very simply, and we perform, we do religious ceremonies in the morning, and then the rest of the day, the idea is you're somehow helping the Sankirtan movement, which means to try to help people get out of this round of birth and death they've been suffering for millions of years. It's the best welfare work. It's the best welfare work that can possibly be. So even just material welfare work can open you to be receptive to Krishna consciousness if you come in the right association. And that's why Prabhupada wanted these books distributed so widely. And not just the books. He once said at the beginning, this Back to Godhead magazine, that was possible to print at quantity. It was a cheap thing, like 24 pages or something, a mimeograph, by hand. And then they sorted the pages in the storefront. It was all very home. And then the devotees would take it out on the street in the Lower East Side. And there's always, seekers and all kinds of people coming around, and they would get interested, and they read, let me check out, it's right here, it's right around the corner, or let me go to this storefront. Whoa, what's that? What's this food, And before long, the first devotees came like that. So the distribution of literature was essential from the very beginning. Prabhupada was the biggest book distributor. In India, he was distributing books like anything. And when he came to America, he would wander up and down the streets. And I know some of the bookstores he went to. The Lower East Side, there's a spiritual bookstore that probably took his books on consignment and sold some of them. So that invitation, to come, the openness, the character of the devotees that can be attractive, and you become exposed, you hear the kirtan, and in this way you start your process in devotional service. So Krishna is saying, if you can't do this, do this. If you can't do this, do this. But somehow or other, you see, you become attracted to Krishna. And then the last one here, you can't even do that, but somehow or other there's also, and then after this he's come back to pure devotion.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol. Vijay Krishna.
Dravida Prabhu, I have a question.
Go ahead.
More or less at the middle of the purport, the quote is as follows, quote, "That is also recommended here because by the practice of giving up the fruits of one's activities, one is sure to purify his mind gradually. And in that purified stage of mind, one becomes able to understand Krishna consciousness." Close
Right.
quote. So based on this quote, my question is, what is the difference between the pure mind and the impure mind? That is my question.
Yeah, the idea is that the impure mind is one that is in the thrall, in the control of the lower modes of nature, which is characterized by strong material desire, kama, and greed. You see, more and more and more and more and more. This puts you deep in the control of the material energy. So when you counteract that by giving your time, giving some of your hard-earned money for just relieving the miseries of others or some good cause, you see, that brings you up a notch in the modes of nature. You become you're feeling a pleasure that is akin to the pleasure of serving Krishna, meaning that you're taking pleasure in others being relieved from their suffering. You see, which is all on the good side. That's good karma, obviously. If you take pleasure in others' suffering, that's schadenfreude, then you go to hell. But just the opposite, if you're relieving people, you're taking pleasure in that. And so even ordinary people, they admire those who sacrifice themselves. They serve out food in the food pantry and this and that. They go and do some good works. You see. Now that's not going to take you back to Godhead, but the point is, it can make you more receptive if you come in contact, and this is where the devotees come in, where sincere devotees of Krishna, they're trying to reach out to candidates who can take up devotional service. So then you'll be more receptive and more interested, simply because your heart has become somewhat purified by this selfless act. It's just the way it works. And I hate to give myself an example, but I spent years in the 60s before even thinking. I was a total atheist. Anyways, many of you haven't been here. Some of you have heard this. I was trained as a communist, literally. It's orthodox. My father was a labor organizer in the 20s and 30s in the New York area, and he was very active, And he became attracted to the communist philosophy, but all on the basis of doing good for others. In other words, my parents were pious in that way, and they sacrificed. So when the big event in the 60s, for those of us who were aware of world affairs and things like that, was the Vietnam War. It was just terrific to be part of the country. And I was growing up. I had a job paying taxes. That to go in to slaughter these people in Vietnam, we did nothing to us. It was crazy. It was very, very. And myself and thousands of others, we'd go to Washington, massive demonstrations, and everything. So that was self-sacrifice. I was doing this, this thing. But I wasn't open to God. I thought God was the opium of the people. That's what Marx taught, So I was confused, obviously. I'm not going to go out my whole way I got in. But still, the fact that Krishna consciousness is really dedicated in large part for helping others to become Krishna conscious, so that to save them from unlimited suffering from many, many births. It's really that's a good part of it. And so this is just it's a material reflection of that, what you referred to. By practice, giving up the fruits of one's activities is sure to purify his mind gradually, and in that purified stage, one mind will become. Now, giving up the fruits doesn't just mean throw them into the gutter. You say, well, I've got $100 here. Okay, I only need $50 for my groceries, so I'll throw away the $100. No. you give what you can to help others with the money, and that that it does open your heart, and you become receptive to that invitation, or that choice of checking out the Hare Krishnas. I've been here, I've been there, now let me check this out. I said, they're very interesting. They're chanting in the street. That's intriguing. Let me check it out. And then Krishna gets you by attracting you to the chanting. So that's what it's all about, Vijay.
Yes, Dravida Prabhu, thank you very much.
Okay, so now he kind of summarizes here. Text 12. Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasaj jnana dhyanam vishishyate dhyanat karma palatyagas tyagakchantiranantaram. If you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation, and better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action, for by such renunciation one can attain peace of mind. Purport. As mentioned in the previous verses, there are two kinds of devotional service: the way of regulative principles, and the way of full attachment in love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For those who are actually not able to follow the principles of Krishna consciousness, it is better to cultivate knowledge, because by knowledge one can be able to understand his real position. Gradually, knowledge will develop to the point of meditation. By meditation, one can be able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by a gradual process. In the cultivation of knowledge, there are processes which make one understand that one himself is the Supreme, and that sort of meditation is preferred if one is unable to engage in devotional service. If one is not able to meditate in such a way, then there are prescribed duties, as enjoined in the Vedic literature, for the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, which we shall find in the last chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. But in all cases, one should give up the result or fruits of labor. This means to employ the result of karma for some good cause. In summary, to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the highest goal, there are two processes. One process is by gradual development, and the other process is direct. Devotional service in Krishna consciousness is the direct method, and the other method involves renouncing the fruits of one's activities. Then one can come to the stage of knowledge, then to the stage of meditation, then to the stage of understanding the Supersoul, and then to the stage of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One may take either the step-by-step process or the direct path. The direct process is not possible for everyone. Therefore, the indirect process is also good. It is, however, to be understood that the indirect process is not recommended for Arjuna, because he is already at the stage of loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord. It is for others who are not at this stage. For them, the gradual process of renunciation, knowledge, meditation, and realization of the Supersoul and Brahman should be followed. But as far as the Bhagavad Gita is concerned, it is the direct method that is stressed. Everyone is advised to take to the direct method and surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So Prabhupada always brings it back to the ultimate phase. Okay, then these following verses, Krishna is giving us a whole list here of qualities that we should try to develop. And if we do, then we'll become very dear to Krishna, which is, after all, the whole point of Bhakti Yoga. To realize that we're dear to Krishna, and that Krishna is very dear to us. All right. Adveshta sarvabhutanam maitra karuna evacha nirmamo narahankara samadukka sukhakshami santushtak satatam yogi yatatma dhridanishchayaha mayarpatamano buddhir yomad bhakta same priyaha. One who is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me, such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. Purport. Coming again to the point of pure devotional service, the Lord is describing the transcendental qualifications of a pure devotee in these two verses. A pure devotee is never disturbed in any circumstances, nor is he envious of anyone, nor does a devotee become his enemy's enemy. He thinks, this person is acting as my enemy due to my own past misdeeds, so it is better to suffer than to protest. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.8, it is stated, Tattenu kampam susamikshamano punjana evatnakritam vipakam. Whenever a devotee is in distress or has fallen into difficulty, he thinks that it is the Lord's mercy upon him. He thinks, thanks to my past misdeeds, I should suffer far, far greater than I am suffering now. So it is by the mercy of the Supreme Lord that I am not getting all the punishment I am due. I am just getting a little by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Close quote. Therefore, he is always calm, quiet, and patient, despite many distressful conditions. A devotee is also always kind to everyone, even to his enemy. Nirmama means that a devotee does not attach much importance to the pains and trouble pertaining to the body, because he knows perfectly well that he is not the material body. He does not identify with the body, therefore he is freed from the conception of false ego and is equipoised in happiness and distress. He is tolerant, and he is satisfied with whatever comes by the grace of the Supreme Lord. He does not endeavor much to achieve something with great difficulty. Therefore he is always joyful. He is completely perfect. He is a completely perfect mystic because he is fixed in the instructions received from the spiritual master. And because his senses are controlled, he is determined. He is not swayed by false arguments because no one can lead him from the fixed determination of devotional service. He is fully conscious that Krishna is the eternal Lord, so no one can disturb him. All these qualifications enable him to fix his mind and intelligence entirely on the Supreme Lord. Such a standard of devotional service is undoubtedly very rare, but a devotee becomes situated in that stage by following the regulative principles of devotional service. Furthermore, the Lord says that such a devotee is very dear to him, for the Lord is always pleased with all his activities in full Krishna consciousness. So this is a state that we can aspire to attain, but it's these qualities are so rare. You can see adveshta, non-envious. Where do you find someone who's non-envious at all of anyone else? It's just like in this society it's built on envy. It's built on, let me see if I can get that position. Adveshta savabhutanam, non-envious of anyone toward all living entities. Maitra karuna evacha, friendly and merciful to others, just the opposite of envious. Nirmama, nothing is mine. That's the understanding with no sense of proprietor, that everything belongs to Krishna. And logically you can understand why that's so. Because whatever we think that we have, we may have attained due to some effort that we made, but how did we make that effort? We made that effort with gifts that Krishna gave. The intelligence we used, the senses we used, our situation, whatever we were able to encounter. So everything is all given by Krishna. That's why the first mantra of the Isha Upanishad, Ishavashamidam Savam Yatkincha Jagat Jam Jagat. Everything that in the universe is owned and controlled by the Lord, the Isha. I love that word gridda, which means greedy. It's basically the same word. It says, so one is entitled to your allotment for your maintenance, but not more than that. As soon as you want more than that, then you are affected by greed, and that's, Krishna said in the 16th chapter, that's one of the enemies that we have to avoid. What does he say? Trivadham nadakastedam dwadam nasanamatma kama krodha tata lobhas tasmadeta toyam jajay. There are 3 gates leading to this hell that he just described, he's casting the demons into. What are they? Lust, anger, and greed. And they kind of go in a succession. You know, it's described earlier in the 2nd chapter that you become lusty, not just sex, but any strong desire. And if you don't fulfill that desire, you become angry. You see? And if you do fulfill it, then you become greedy. You want more and more and more. So this is like a 3-fold door. This is trivadham nadakasedam dwaram. Dwaram means a gate. So those who are wise avoid those 3 gates. And you're beginning with the desire. Somehow I love this word, sublimate. To sublimate your desires. The activities of the senses. We have to eat, right? All right, let's learn the art of preparing nice vegetarian dishes for Krishna and offering them and then partaking. So we're eating, we're being nourished, but it becomes a sacrament rather than just another way to entangle yourself into the material world. You see? So everything, the seeing, we can see the deities and you can see the devotees, you read. So all of the senses, and first the ear. Always the ear, Shravanam is first. Your hearing, and of course reading is also hearing. You know, you're hearing. Read aloud is better. But the idea is that your intelligence is being purified by the sound vibration, by the words of the Lord, or by the words of His pure devotee, by the holy name. So that hearing is the first sense, and then everything follows after that. The hands, the feet. You can use the feet. I always give it the example. Those who have heard it before, please forgive me. 40 feet down the road, you'll be in the bar, right? And there's people in the bar right now, probably. So you made the choice of coming in this door, maybe around the side, because the front door is closed. So that's all. That makes a complete difference in your whole life, right? If you cultivate the desire for the bar, so I wouldn't be dead in that Hare Krishna temple. I don't know what they're doing. It's crazy people. And the people in the Hare Krishna, we're not going to the bar. So that makes all the difference. And the more that you cultivate wholesome desires for advancing a Krishna consciousness, chanting, improving the chanting. There's so many offenses you want to avoid. First and foremost, which is the source of all the others, inattention. If you can really become absorbed. I remember, and I have on my iPad, I made a nice little printout, of the Hare Krishna mantra. You can read the mantra as you chant. That's why we have this up here for, in case you forget. But it helps anything that helps to fix your mind while you're chanting. And that really is an essential aspect of it. So all of these qualities can develop. We can aspire for them. Maitra Karuna Evacha, to be merciful means to give people Krishna kind of friendly, total, no sense of possessiveness. Everything belongs to Krishna. Engage as far as possible, whatever you have in Krishna's service, like that. Samadukha Sukha, and to be equipoised in happiness and distress. Now this verse Prabhupada quotes here is a very important one, 10.14.8. It's after the prayers of Brahma in the 14th chapter of the 10th canto. Those are also very important. After he steals the calves and the boys, and then Krishna, for a whole year, he just expands himself in the calves and the boys, and Brahma comes back after like a half a second of his time. If you multiply it out, it's like very quick. And what's this? Krishna's playing with the calves and boys. I thought I've got him in this mystic slumber, So finally, this is God, even though he's a little boy. So then he offers these wonderful prayers. But this comes after those prayers. Shukadev speaks this verse. And it really is a challenge, but it's a way of living in the world and not getting so disturbed by everything. The whole idea is you can become equipoised. The tatte anukampam susamikshamano bundana evatna kritam vipakam. So to see as Krishna's mercy, anukam susamikshamano, to see everything as Krishna's mercy. Bunja evatna kritam vipakam. Whatever I'm suffering is due to my own sins. And Krishna, he's so kind, he's minimizing it, you see. I just cut my finger while preparing, cutting the vegetables in the kitchen. Oh, Krishna's so kind. I was supposed to cut my whole finger off, and I just got a little cut here. Thank you, Krishna. So you're thankful, you see. And then if something good happens, he says, oh, Krishna's so kind, he's giving me more opportunity to serve him, you see. So in either case, you still maintain your positive attitude toward Krishna. And in this way you can become very peaceful, you know. And Prabhupada faced so many difficulties in this preaching. There's another movie I saw on YouTube. I'd never seen it before. It was produced in India, but it's all about Prabhupada and how he spread Krishna consciousness in India. And at one point, I did read about this, but not the details so much. When he did the first big pandal in Calcutta, the Bengal had developed these, these about Naxalites, the terrorists, the communist terrorists, you know. And they were nasty, you know. They would go after wealthy businessmen and extort money from them, and if they didn't, you know, if they refused, they would sometimes assassinate them and everything. So they said, when Prabhupada was preparing the pandal, he had a big tent and everything. That's what a pandal was, kind of big. And thousands of people were coming, and they sent Prabhupada a note: fly or die. You know, a threat. So Prabhupada was not ready to fly, and he wasn't ready to die. So I read this, that they came into the pandal, tent, and Prabhupada was sitting there, and so Prabhupada said, "Oh, give him some nice seats, give him some comfortable seats," So that right away he kind of disarmed them, because he wasn't afraid, in terror. And then he started chanting the Govinda prayers, Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham, and they were completely disarmed. Because they also were raised as devotees. They knew about devotional service, So Prabhupada was able to, and then he had a meeting with them. They had some prasadam, and he said, we're establishing spiritual communism, and he got him with that whole thing. And it really is, I remember when I was trained as a communist, one of the main slogans was, from each according to his abilities, to each according to his needs. I don't know if you've ever heard that before. But then after being in a meeting about Varnashram and everything, I said, that sounds like Varnashram. That sounds like, the new Vrindavan. You go there, you work hard, you get what you need, So anyway, they were enthralled by that, and they were disarmed, and they went away peacefully, So Prabhupada showed he showed the perfection of these verses that we just read. Not being disturbed and being calm even in difficult circumstances. Okay, we have a question here, and then we have to adjourn soon.
I don't understand this sentence right here about halfway down the page. He does not.
We're on page 523?
Yes.
He does not what?
He does not endeavor much to achieve something with great difficulty. Therefore, he is always joyful. I'm having difficulty understanding. He does not endeavor much to achieve something with great difficulty. Does that mean he doesn't take on great challenges?
Oh, here it is. He does not endeavor much to achieve something with great difficulty. Therefore, he is always joyful. Well, the idea is that of course, if you look at Prabhupada's life or his preaching for 12 years, it all seemed like very difficult. It wasn't that difficult to get on a boat and come across, There's this whole thing about over-endeavor, about the example, I think, in the Nectar of Devotion is, I think Haridas Thakur, he chanted 64 rounds, I'm going to do that. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. You just joined the temple, And you're not really fit to do that. You're taking on more than you're able to. You have to take it a step at a time. And that's why new bhaktas, they're given things that they can do, and that they can feel fulfilled in that. A lot of it is washing the pots. That's usually the training period, Most people can figure out how to do that, And it's very important, it's necessary, but it doesn't strain your, abilities. It's a surrender. So that's, I think, what's being mentioned here, is that you take on things that are may be difficult, but not so difficult that they strain you, and you're risking failing at it and feeling that you failed Krishna. That's why we need guidance from above. You accept things that are a challenge, but that are not beyond what you really are ready to do. That's an important aspect. That's the idea. Measure it. At a certain point, you can increase your rounds, get up to 16 regularly, and then you can increase your rounds. But don't try to go from 0 to 64. It's like, All right, we have time for one quick poem. All right, without no Sanskrit. Krishna's running out into the forest. There's a painting like that. He's running ahead of all the boys with Balaram on the bank of the river Yamuna. Have you ever seen that? They're just entering, and now they're ready to play and herd the cows, Let's go, said Krishna, don't delay at all. And he and Balaram began to run ahead of all their coward friends who called, "Oh, Krishna, Rama, let us join the fun." And off they ran to Braja's forest haunts. A haunt, in this context, is a nice secret place where you have little adventures and you can play, you see? That's a haunt. And a sward, not a sword, but a sward, S-W-A-R-D, is a meadow. I don't know if you know that. You know why I use that word? It rhymes with Lord. Okay. So off they went to Braja's forest haunts to play in every bower, grove, and sward. The boys would tease their friend with playful taunts, forgetting his position as the Lord. Shri Krishna is inviting us as well to join him in his pastimes, which enthrall. The wise heed Krishna when they hear him tell, "Let's go, my friends, do not delay at all." You see? So think about that. All right, now we have to adjourn because they're going to open those curtains. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you. So we'll re-adjourn on Monday. And I've got this, 15, right? 15? Oh, we did? It's 15? It is 15. As they say, women are much smarter than men. No, men can only have 36 ounces and women can have 64 ounces. Brain.